The independent Office of Budget Responsibility, funded by the UK Treasury, has established that despite the UK securing a much-hyped trade deal at the last minute, Brexit has nevertheless shrunk the UK economy by 4% per annum in the long term. And according to the government's own figures, UK Brexit trade losses are more than 178 times larger than gains from the much vaunted trade deals secured by Liz cut-and-paste Truss and her successor, climate change sceptic Marie Trevelyan. But Brexit may be about to get a whole lot worse. With COP26 out of the way, the UK is now threatening to trigger Article 16 of the Northern Ireland Protocol, which could prompt the European Union to suspend the post-Brexit trade deal altogether and impose tariffs on all UK goods entering the EU. Stay tuned. Before we get into it, if you enjoy the channel, please like this video, subscribe and do your campanology impression. I'm beginning to suspect that Lord Gormless, the unelected bureaucrat David Frost, has been kicked in the head by a horse. Other explanations may be available, but whatever the cause, he seems to be suffering from an extreme case of amnesia, mental confusion and delusional tendencies. Late last year, he and his negotiating team went through the Brexit withdrawal agreement page by page, line by line, word by word, every I dotted and every T crossed, every clause minutely scrutinised and the legal meaning of the document fully comprehended. It was subsequently passed in the House of Commons by a government with an 80-seat majority. This Brexiteer government was under no pressure of any kind. But now, the harder-thinking David Frost is claiming that the UK was bullied by the EU into signing a rushed and flawed Brexit deal, and he wants to rip up the Northern Ireland Protocol and start again with a new one, which would allow the UK to do pretty much what it damn well pleases. This is, by the way, the very same Northern Ireland Protocol that Frost had said less than a year ago was an excellent deal with the EU that he had been proud to secure. So what has changed in the meantime? Well, what Lord Gormless hadn't anticipated was that the EU would break the spirit of the protocol by actually implementing it. I mean, who could have predicted what Frost has called such a purist approach to a treaty that the UK and the EU had both ratified? Gormless is now accusing the EU of acting in bad faith by applying the treaty in the exact form in which it had been agreed. Meanwhile, the EU's Brexit negotiators are warning of serious consequences if the UK makes good on its threat to trigger Article 16, which basically means ditching the Northern Ireland Protocol. At the time of recording, this has been leaked as possibly happening as early as next week. For those who don't know, the protocol provides for checks on goods travelling between Northern Ireland and the mainland to make sure none of these UK goods enter the EU's single market the other side of the Irish border. The EU have been busy fielding possible solutions and compromises that would reduce red tape to a fraction of the current requirements. But the EU Vice President Maros Sefcovic has said that the UK Brexit team headed by Frost has so far refused to even engage in discussions. He added that seeking the renegotiation of the protocol would have serious consequences for Northern Ireland, as it would lead to instability and unpredictability. I interpret this as him diplomatically saying that Brussels would suspend the post-Brexit trade deal and impose tariffs on all UK goods entering the EU. Get Brexit done? More like get Brexit undone, as this would dump us back to where we were a year ago, staring a no-deal Brexit in the face, meaning a further 1.75% contraction of the UK economy on top of the current 4%, according to figures from the independent think tank UK and a Changing Europe. It would also mean that we'd be back to trading with the EU on WTO, World Trade Organization, rules. There's only one country on the entire planet that trades solely on WTO rules, that is, trading independently outside of any trading bloc, and that country is Mauritania, whose economy is 0.2% the size of the UK's and 50% of whose exports are iron ore. The Leave.eu campaign were of course at one point pushing for exactly this. But it's not a vision of Britain that I can muster any enthusiasm for. The Brexiters say, but because our economy is so much bigger than Mauritania's, we'll be in a far better position to replace EU trading with trade deals all over the world. Look at the deals we've achieved so far. I mean, welcome to world-beating global Britain and all that jingoistic nonsense, because the truth is, the post-Brexit trade deals that have been struck will deliver a tiny, tiny economic boost, amounting to between just 0.01 to 0.02% of GDP, and that's the equivalent of less than 50p per UK person per year, which is dwarfed by the economic hit we've suffered from leaving the EU, that 4% of GDP figure I mentioned before, that has been confirmed by the government's Office of Budget Responsibility, the OBR. They calculate this as being a loss of more than £1,250 per person over the coming years, which is more than 178 times the most optimistic prediction for the benefits from the Liz cut-and-paste trade deals. By the way, you may think that this is one of my less clever nicknames for the current Johnson cabal, but the OBR analysis notes that the vast majority of free trade agreements announced by Liz Truss on behalf of the government, such as those with South Korea, Singapore and Vietnam, were simply attempts by the previously ardent Remainer Truss to cut and paste treaties that those countries already had with the EU and which Britain previously enjoyed anyway as a member. Trouble is, because of having less clout as a single nation, the cut and pasted terms had to be edited to be not quite as good as those with the EU, and therefore, rather than adding to UK trade compared to being an EU member, on the contrary, they actually harm it, according to leading trade specialist Professor L. Alan Winters. So there you have it, a Brexit that costs the country 4% of GDP year on year, that costs every British adult and child an average £1,250, that can't be offset by free trade agreements with smaller economies on the other side of the globe, and that may see the once powerful and influential United Kingdom modelling its economy on Mauritania, a desert country where many thousands of its 4.4 million population are still enslaved. Sounds right on brand for a UK government championing the erosion of employment rights, punitive in-work universal credit cuts, and the continued expansion of the gig economy.